UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your hosts, Dr. Dean Bertram and Jenn Dorrell.
Well, welcome back to Talking Weird, baby. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm getting through it. How about you?
Well, I don't have COVID, so that's good news.
Well, I'm over COVID. It's over. Done, finite.
Oh, that's your second time you've got it as well.
Yeah, and I got it for my kids. So they do love to share.
That seems to be the way with
children. I have
children.
something to show you, though.
Oh, I'm curious.
You know how I'm always talking about the little apps and stuff that I get on my phone?
Yes.
So I'm testing it out on my iPad because it's not on here, not normally being used. So I downloaded it. Oh, it's already adding a name. So as we were talking, the Talking Weird intro was going through. This was just, randomly on. And it came up with Bertram.
Gosh.
So that right there tells you that it's feeding off your information. Like maybe it's listening or it's I don't know why it would say Bertram. That has never ever gone through in this thing.
Who is, like, it read your mind? Who is the man I love? Bertram.
We're talking about an iPhone, so they listen.
I just heard.
Listens.
Yeah. Joe and David both said hello, and David said he's glad that you're better, if you didn't see that.
Thank you, David.
We're going to talk a little bit about your apps and your upcoming paranormal investigations. And you made a video this week that we'll jump into. I have to tell, I don't know if it's funny. It was funny to me. A little story about my videos that I make. I'm sure most of our regular listeners know I do this little side video show on the Talking Weird YouTube channel called My Weird Library, where basically for 10 minutes every week I talk about a book, a paranormal book or a horror author or a UFO, book, and try to put it within some kind of cultural and historical context. And I love it because it lets me just rant for 10 minutes about something, as anybody who watches this show knows. Anyway, some of them, don't get much traction. It's not like any of them are getting thousands of views, but, some get more traction than others. And whenever I do an alien abduction one, it seems to get, more eyes on it. So this week, I did a little video on the Interrupted Journey, which is, of course, the first book where the famous Betty and Barney Hill abduction story was publicized. And I probably don't have to go into the details of the Betty and Barney Hill case. But anyway, my kind of point in the video, people who are interested can go watch the Talking Weird channel, is they were not biracial, that's the wrong terminology. They were an interracial couple. Obviously, Barney was black and Betty was white. And because of all the stress of interracial couples back in the 60s, I kind of posited this thesis. There's a lot of things in there that look like that stress might have had something to do with the experience that they remembered both in dreams and under hypnosis, and that the grey extraterrestrial is a weird way between black and white, not biologically, but archetypally. So maybe that's how the grey ET was born. Anyway, I knew it was going to be controversial, but and I was getting, I'd shared it all over Facebook on hundreds of pages, and I was getting into. I don't try to get into flame wars because people can have an opinion, but I'll disagree if I don't like their criticism, which you never should do. John Keel said never even address a critic, and I never did when I was a writer. If there was ever a letter to an editor of one of the papers or magazines I used to write for, criticizing one of my controversial articles, I always had the right to reply. I never bothered. But anyway, so I normally reply. Normally I'm pretty friendly, but there was one guy who did this really actually thoughtful, high-end reply, and I disagreed with some of it, but some he was kind of, on point with. And, I kind of, not in a flame warish way, because I thanked him for his thoughtful comment, but disagreed and, blah, blah, blah. But I friend requested him because I never heard of the person. We'll have to get to that in a minute. I friend requested him and I just messaged him and said, listen, you're obviously, I'm very impressed with your knowledge of knowledge of, you know, UFO literature and UFO sources. And then we chatted back and forth a little bit, and he said, I'll send you a text document in case it's helpful for you for some of, and he kind of downplayed it, you know, some of my scribblings over the years. And it didn't have his name on it. I still didn't know who he was. He had not his real name on his account. And I'm not going to say his real name because I don't think he'd want me to. Anyway, I get this list, and it's extensive, like pages of articles. And I'm going through it, and I'm going, it's like his name's not on there, but I recognize some of the articles. Some of them I actually referenced in my PhD dissertation. I know very well who this person is. And he's probably one of the greatest thinkers in the social, psychological UFO, I guess, side of, you know, the debate. People who think there's a psychological and sociological element, and he's super switched on. He was influential to me. And I just had this flame war shoot down with him, and I went, don't tell me you're such and such. Get out of town. He was like, yeah, I don't use my real name here. I don't, you know. And I went, gosh, I said, I would have just taken the verbal beating you gave me and not said anything if I knew who you were. Yeah. Anyway, wonderful guy. We've chatted back and forth. He probably knows more about alien abductions than 99.9% of the UFO community have. In fact, let me rephrase it. He's probably forgotten more about alien abductions than 99.9% of the UFO community knows. I mean, this guy is switched on. But it was weird to get into a vaguely kind of flame war with one of your intellectual heroes is the wrong term, but somebody you really respect. So that's funny. Anyway, that's enough about me. This show's about you. You dropped a 10-minute video this week on Facebook. I don't think you put it on YouTube. And you were just, you were, because you're getting ready to do an investigation early next week. And you had some interesting, you threw out some interesting ideas. Can you tell us a little bit for those who haven't seen the video, can you throw out the background of the video, why you did it, and tell us a little bit about what you suggested in it?
Well, in that video, I decided to kind of go over what constitutes a haunting. When I mow where I work, I have lots of time to think. And so I've been thinking about all these things I want to do for the investigation, try some new tactics and different techniques and stuff. So I just kind of going over a whole bunch of stuff in my head. And then I started thinking about hauntings, because that is something that's always asked where I work. You know, is this place haunted? And I always have to go through my normal spiel about residual and all that kind of stuff. But then again, you know, you go to other places that are quite haunted. They're known as a haunted location, and people pay money to stay the night there or investigate there. And so it's pretty much stays active. There's not a time where it's not active. So you kind of think and wonder, why haven't, you know, why did anybody move on? Why are they staying there? What's the point of it? So, you know, what's the bigger picture? It's something we haven't really, we obviously are never going to know till, you know, we transition and cross over. But that was something that was kind of stuck in my head that day. And then, of course, the more you think about it, if you're an investigator and you go to these locations, you're constantly you're bringing in more energy into the location. So the energy you're bringing in is all of the energy that's constantly around you for your spirit guides, any type of attachments that you probably previously picked up somewhere else. Anything else like that will go with. So therefore, that'll either stay at the location or come back with you, or maybe you'll get something from the location to come with you. So you're constantly sharing wherever you go. You always have your own, what word am I thinking of? Like your own little bubble of spirituality always around you. Everybody's got that. So you always have something with you. So wherever you go, you're sharing it. It goes with you. And so that's why I think a lot of locations are so haunted, because it's not necessarily things that are from that place. It's from what everybody else has brought to it. And I think that's another reason why people talk more about portals too, because I think places that are very active like that are constantly being investigated, I think it's kind of opening a portal in most of those locations too. But that was something that was kind of stuck in my head. So I was thinking about that. And I know that have an issue with the word haunted. There's a big stigma with it, where a lot of people think if something's haunted, it's spooky, scary, and something very negative is going to come out and get you. Because everything, like now, when you talk about like paranormal television, YouTubers, everybody that's trying to make a money, a buck off of the paranormal, it's got to be demonic or an evil entity in order to get views. So I don't think of investigating that way at all. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It definitely does exist in some aspects, but I don't think everything is got a negative, something to it. It's just not. But I know that when I go to certain investigation, I always feel like I have a family member with me, and one would be, my brother. I feel like he comes along with me. I know for a fact on Monday, he'll be with me too, because his son will be with me. So it's going to be perfect timing, because that's when they know you're trying to communicate with the other side. You're going to have all of these devices that they can, take part in and try and talk to you. So they'll try and communicate with you while you're in those locations. So that was another long spiel I was going through with those 10 minutes. Excuse me. But I have to try to control my cough. Adio.
Yeah, my cat was banging at the back door, so I muted my microphone. David asked, do you think some hauntings may be a sort of Tulpa effect?
Sure. Yeah, when you go into a haunting, there I go. When you go into a haunted location, I always try to go in with certain intentions. I think you're going to get what you bring to it. So if you're there for a positive experience and you're really wanting to communicate with what literally belongs there, not somebody that's just kind of piggybacked from somebody else that's just, ready to pounce on you so they can talk to somebody because they're, I don't know what's going on with their conscious. But there goes my ADD. What was the question again? I've already forgot.
Can some hauntings be a sort of Tulpa effect? So I think you're saying, yes, you think that people can their state of mind can manifest these kind of things. Oh, yes,
it's your intention. So I like to go in there so I can talk to them, just figure out if they need help. I mean, my goal for an investigation is to actually talk to the other side, try to listen and learn. And also if something needs help, I wouldn't really know the first thing, but I would definitely try to see if I could figure it out, see if I could help them find their way back, their home or something like that. But that's my goal in investigating. My goal is not to make sure I capture something on video. I mean, of course, it is one of the top goals, because then you want to prove that, it exists. But in the same aspect, I enjoy the experience just as much. So a lot of investigators want that on the video, and then they want something very evil, knocking or throwing things or poltergeist type activity. So that's not really what I go searching for.
I know you'll have an opinion on this. Hi, Mothman 46. Nice to have you with us. Yeah. Can wandering spirits and stone tape theory both be in play?
Yeah. I mean, stone tape theory is just a memory loop. And it has to do with the right atmosphere. So stone tape theory is usually with limestone, quartz, water, all of those conduits that can be used. And spirits can use those too, because it's perfect. It's got its own energy source. So you'll find it not just residual energy there. You're going to find an active location. What was that question?
Oh, that was just Joe Fox commenting that no stronger energy than the one we carry with us, I believe. That there's no stronger energy than the one we bring. And I think you were saying something similar to that before. I missed a question earlier because I didn't want to cut in on something you were saying. But one of our regular guests and listeners, and one of our very good friends, Ed Schultz, hi Ed, asked, are you familiar with the ghost of Flight 401? No, I might have heard it, but I'm not familiar with it. I'll check out the YouTube link you sent later, though, Ed, for sure. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to. Ghost for a while. I have heard of it, but I'm not familiar with the story. But I've heard the term before. So, Do you think most of these positions you've come to are because of your experiences? Because everybody hears me theorizing all the time, but it's not through experience usually. Usually it's just through me, reading one too many books and spending too much time thinking about it. But how much of this is based on what you felt or what you've experienced as a sensitive, do you think, your approach to this?
Well, most of it is from that, my experience. I watch way too much paranormal TV just because I'm fascinated by it, just to see if, somebody catches any evidence. But there is a pattern with most of it where you can't trust what you're seeing on TV because they stage a lot of it. So once I notice that, I'm probably going to turn the channel. But from what I've experienced and what I've been told through, you just know as a sensitive, whatever I feel, whatever a spirit guide's trying to tell me, is kind of where I'm at right now with the stuff that I've mentioned about, spirits and haunted locations and activity and all that.
I picked a sucky night for you with your COVID cough.
I know it.
To be just railing down on questions. So, answer me this then. As somebody who's a sensitive, how does something which is like stone tape theory that Mothman 46 was talking about before, and you've talked about plenty of times on the show, how does something which is a manifestation of that kind of, of the quartz or the actual, the geography of the place, how does that feel different to a sensitive to something which is actually a cognitive present spirit, I suppose?
Say that again, because you broke up. Just that last bit, okay. I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I'm saying, how does it feel to you as somebody who's a sensitive? What's the difference in the feeling to a manifestation that comes from stone tape presence, that comes from something which is geological or just, embedded in the memory of the geography, as opposed to an actual cognizant thinking spirit or presence which is in the house or in the location?
That's still something I'm trying to figure out the difference with. Like, where I work at, I would never call that a haunted location, like an active. Okay, bye-bye. Sorry, I had my ghost tube on, just testing it out. And it said leaving. Okay. So with that location, it feels completely nice and fine and serene and great, like it's supposed to be. It's retreat. But if you go to a location that's there for investigating, it. You walk in that door, it's like, whoa, what the heck's in here? And so when you walk around the location, you'll catch it. You'll just feel it. It's like this hovering thing that's just like leaning over you, just watching you. I mean, it's just a different experience. I don't know how to explain it. That's something I'm still trying to figure out the difference between, but I do know if it's residual, it doesn't have any of the weird feelings with it, like an intelligent haunt. That's a little different. To me, it is. Just depending on certain spots where you're at. I mean, if it's happening where you're right then and there and it's going through the loop at the time, then you'll feel it. Okay. But it's not something you notice as soon as you walk in saying, oh, well, this place has got residual energy. You don't know it till it actually happens, because then you'll feel the shift.
Huh. Yeah, that'd creep me out, feeling that shift, but I'm also not a sensitive. David just commented, I think, in response to Ed's question about Flight 401. He said it was an aircraft crash in the Everglades. Parts of the plane were used on other planes, carried the spirits of the dead navigator. So thanks for that, David. And Joe Fox, I'm not familiar with this case, Joe, so I'm going to have to look it up. Andrew Redzewick's manifesting UFOs to appear. I know I've heard certainly of other people manifesting all kinds of things to appear, but I'm not familiar with that case. Are you familiar with that, Jen? Or?
Not with that one, but I mean, that's kind of the same idea as the CE5 movement or whatever they have out now, where you can get together with like-minded people who want to communicate with the ships that you see up in the sky. And it's more of like an enlightenment movement where you can connect with them and you all meditate. You all bring out this intention and manifest it. And then all of a sudden, after you're got this nice, warm feeling and everybody's so happy and ready to communicate to this other realm, boom, these lights show up. So I haven't experienced that yet, and I definitely want to.
Do
I'll tell you all about it.
Do the lights appear after or before they sing Kumbaya?
It's usually before.
I'm joking. I shouldn't be facetious. Just the way you painted it so touchy feely, hippie happy.
They're so. I mean, like I totally want to be. I want to experience. I want to see.
I'm sure you do.
You watch it because then people are like, oh, but at the same time, you kind of wonder, since they're all feeding off each other's energy, are they all absorbing one huge hallucination? Is not the correct word. I don't want to say that. That's rude. No, but still at the same time, it's like, are they manifesting it together and they're all just one, you talk about one consciousness kind of thing, but they're all merging and they're all experiencing the same thing. And somebody that's not within their little community and doing that, will they see the same thing? Someone's just standing over there, has no idea what they're doing. Will they still see that light too? I don't know. That'd be a good type of investigation. Somebody should put some cameras up. The random people walk in on it and see if those people see it too. So.
Yeah, I certainly think that so much of the paranormal and the supernatural and UFOs and cryptids and everything else is dependent upon our perceptions and our expectation and our engagement with it. So I can only imagine if there's a group of people sitting on a mountainside or sitting out in the desert looking at the skies, expecting something, whatever the physical reality or the exterior reality of what they see is or isn't, I can't imagine that their state of mind doesn't play something or somehow into that experience. I mean, that seems, I think, fairly obvious. Joe Fox just said, in regards to the Andrew Wedzowicz, which I'm probably mispronouncing, about manifesting UFOs, Joe Fox said check him out on Facebook. Jen is right, so your comparison was similar. David had another question, which was, do you think some people guard their resident spirits or even demonic forces for profit?
Oh, yeah.
And bring in people who investigate and it feeds off them.
Yep.
It's like a horror movie, David.
It's almost like a contract they have with them, if you think about it. Like, I'll stay here and haunt this location as long as you feed me, and that way you get your money. So they're literally got a contract. That's kind of how I see it.
Can't help but love it. Joe's awesome comment. Kind of like if a tree falls in the North Woods. Nobody sees it, does it really fall? Funny, when nobody hears it, does it really fall? Yeah. Your video today, I found, or the video you did, I think it dropped yesterday, I did find really interesting. And it's got to make, when you look at haunted, you don't want to use the word haunted, but I will, just because I'm not an actual investigator.
It's the thing now, but.
When you look at a haunted, well, I think traditionally we've talked about haunted houses and haunted places, and so I'll keep using haunted. But I'm not trying to be derogatory. I'm just using it to mean somewhere where people believe there are spirits or non-human forces, right? If somebody investigates a haunted location, and your theory is correct, then it's difficult. I mean, if people are bringing energy and all these paranormal investigators around the country have investigated dozens of other places and they have their spirit guides and their dead loved ones and attachments and they're generating tulpa thought forms, everything else, you have to ask how haunted the location was before people started bringing in these kind of teams every weekend. And it makes me think of Skinwalker Ranch, which apparently the original owners of that place, they'd never seen a UFO. They'd never seen anything. Now, I should remember the names, and they don't. They sold it to a couple, and all of a sudden that couple started seeing, UFOs and other weird stuff, right? And then I think they sold it to Bigelow, the multimillionaire who bought the place. And eventually they stopped investigating because, as Bigelow said, he was shutting down, his NIDS organization because there wasn't enough regular occurrences to justify it going on. So you have to, but you have to wonder how and I've heard similar things about the Amityville Horror House, like some residents having, nothing there, and other residents having, things there. So you've got to wonder what the presence of, and mind you, maybe some people just lied about what they saw there, but let's pretend there's genuine experiences. You have to wonder, is it the location that's haunted, or is it the people coming in all the time and bringing these things and these expectations and, or manifesting things, whatever.
Well, them, and then, how open they are to it. If you're not open to it, you're more than likely probably won't even see it, because if you did see it, you'd still try to, disprove it or ignore it anyway. So if they have nobody to communicate with, then they'll probably try a couple times, and they get nothing out of you, then they'll go elsewhere. Somebody will pay attention to them. So, but I think that location, it's got a lot of Native American grandson. Okay. It has a lot of Native American folklore with it. So that's the reason why, you've got that skinwalker story along with it, because they've seen, that land's tainted from what I'd heard, but I still don't know that much about it.
Nancy Malcolm just made a very good point. She said, our planet is crawling with all types of things, beings we can't see, spirits, ghosts, energies, elementals, aliens, fae, human energies floating around consciousness, etc. How can any one type of activity be classified? I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I don't know how many of those things are, but I certainly know that there are strange things. And how do you classify this stuff? So I think she's dead on there. How do you say what's what?
Yeah. Not really. Not unless it's legit something, for sure it's a past loved one. But then again, you've got those tricksters that can read your mind. So all of that is kind of hard. So like, for instance, like, I'm just warming this up because I plan on taking it with me. And I use this a lot on investigation, but I hadn't used it on my little iPad before. And I'm just letting it run through, because I let it run through all the words for a while. So it's just, they're easy to grab.
Can you explain to people what it is? Because you just said, you've told me, but other listeners might know.
It's just this app's just got some words in it. I don't know how many different ones there are, but they just randomly pop up. So supposedly, and any type of entity, if they want to communicate, they can somehow pick a word and it'll pop up. I don't know how legit that is, but it is very interesting. I do like to keep it on. I can't say that it's for real or anything, but I do find it interesting when words do pop up during a conversation that makes sense, to where they're answering it, and it's correct stuff that that the app shouldn't know, so it's just like, wait a minute, there's something there. So I do like to leave that running.
How many?
So for instance, that's Ghost Tube. That one's different, but this one here, I'm quite interested in it, just because I was mentioning earlier.
What is it? Tell us what that one is. I don't know if you said the name of it, or I
misheard if you did. Spirit Talker.
Spirit. Okay.
Yeah. And so I was talking about CE5, and Star pops up here. And then as I was talking more about that, it says she's coming through. And then I got a Christopher. I've never, ever had Christopher come through. Ever. And
tell people the significance. Hang on. Tell people the significance of Christopher, because not everybody might know the significance of Christopher.
That's my brother. So he, I've never ever had the Christopher name come through. So that's interesting.
And he's passed too, just because not everybody knows your backstory necessarily listening. Okay.
Yeah. So I feel him with me all the time. I shouldn't say all the time, because that's a little freaky and weird. But no, I do feel him around a lot. And so, and to me, this kind of topic anyway was something he was always fascinated with. So I think he goes with me on these investigations and does try to use the instruments, the tools, as much as he can, just to communicate. But I thought that was neat that popped up. We were trying to figure out whether or not you can categorize what you're actually talking to. And so I think if it is a loved one, hopefully it is something like that. I guess it's a good way to quiz it and stuff. What does that say again? Oh yeah, they can travel. Up your audio again.
Mark.
Brief. So Nancy said, for those who are listening and not watching, I don't think intelligent, interactive spirits ghosts are confined to any one location. I know they travel on underground springs. I hadn't heard the underground spring stuff, but maybe you have, Jen. Maybe you can.
That's your water.
No, I know, but I hadn't heard they traveled
caves.
on springs. So when someone dies, in my humble opinion, only affects repetitive activity. Interesting. Did you say you'd heard the theory they travel on underground springs, spirits, or Jen?
Well, I mean, water, period. Well, it didn't really have to be underground, but I mean, water's conduit. So we travel anything that's got energy with it, And the big thing now that I've noticed more with locations, people are using mirrors as portals. Like they literally are facing mirrors together on purpose. So that way there's a good way for opening. So there's the theory is you put two mirrors across from each other. This is this is folklore. I mean, this is something that's been known for a long, long time. You put two mirrors together that you form a portal so they can jump in and out of dimensions. And so a lot of locations will do that on purpose. It's kind of like a vortex portal, that type of thing. So the location that I'm going to has tons of them. And I know when I was there, I was fascinated with the mirrors. I kept taking pictures in the mirror. And I normally don't like mirrors. I've always had issues with mirrors because when I was younger, I scared myself because I was kind of playing around with something I shouldn't have been playing around with. And, you're younger, you like to try things that aren't good for you. And I tried something and had a very, very bad experience. And my idea was to stare at a mirror. I saw lots of things I shouldn't have seen. And to me, something came out of that mirror and stayed with me for quite a while.
Gosh,
I don't like mirrors.
I did the Rossicrucian mirror staring trick when I was in, I don't know, my late teens, maybe early 20s, was that supposedly it was one of the, the old, I think if you sent away for like the Rossicrucian magic stuff that they used to advertise in the back of like Fate magazine and things, this was part of the course. But it's a well-known occult practice that if you stare at a mirror and you have a candle or a dim light source off to the side,
like the scrying.
well, you supposedly see your previous incarnations or other things you've been. And I will tell you when I did it, and I think it's, again, just some kind of perceptual, trick. But when I did it, I started to feel, and it's probably because you're staring straight ahead at a mirror with a weird light source off to the side of the back of you. I started to feel very, very altered state like it felt like I wasn't looking frontways. It felt like I was sitting with my face facing down, looking into something. And after a while, my face started doing exactly what it's meant to do. It started transforming, like cyclically, like one thing, another thing. And it was super freaky. But again, what's going to happen if you sit in a dark room staring at a mirror for a couple of hours? I mean, there's probably your perception's probably going to go wacky. So did I see something genuinely supernatural, or was I just playing with my eyesight, So.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that use the scrying on purpose to communicate. Yeah. Bloody Mary. I used to do that all the time when I was a kid. That was my favorite thing to do.
I never did that.
We always do Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. And then you psych yourself out by the last time you say it. You're like, I don't want to look. But yeah, that was fun.
That's interesting. Joe Fox said, divining rods sticking water below ground, picking up the energy flow. I played around with divining rods when I was a kid as well. But, I was a kid of the 70s. You have some. See, I made them out of coat hangers.
I love these things. They do work, and they're pretty fascinating. I mean, I've had it even where I work at. I mean, they work very well. And the fact that these, like when you talk, they would automatically, whatever was there was getting used to it. So if somebody had the floor, it would automatically point to the person while they're talking. And then it would go back to the front. Somebody else, we weren't asking a question. And then somebody else decided to talk because we weren't asking it any questions. It would point to the next person. Like, here's your floor, you talk. And then I'd go back. Somebody else talk. Okay, well, you're talking, so I'm going to point to you. It was like really weird. I'm like, what the hell is going But
Do
yeah.
you think any? I know I used to play with those and with pendulums when I was little, crystal pendulums, which were also popular in the
I
70s
got
and
those too.
into the 80s. But the skeptic in me can't help but wonder, are we doing some subconscious movement? The same as if we're doing a Ouija board with a planchette. Are we somehow not even conscious that we're, just tweaking a little bit and it makes the divining rods move or the pendulum spin or the planchette scoot across the shiny surface?
Well, the best way to do that is do it yourself, know for a fact that you didn't move.
But what I'm saying is, is it perhaps?
Oh, you mean with your mind?
Yeah,
Like
no,
you're making it
is it
move?
just unconscious? Like, is it not? It's the same way you don't have to consciously think about your stomach digesting food or your eyes blinking. There are certain anatomical reactions which which are unconscious. It's the way people who are good at body language can look at you and tell if you're about to punch somebody or if you're lying or if you're in love with somebody, because we do things which we're not even conscious we do physiologically.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder, and I'm again not dismissing this stuff because I find it fascinating, but I sometimes can't help but wonder, at least in some cases, are people subconsciously tweaking, not even knowing they're tweaking their muscles slightly or moving their hands slightly, The body,
Yeah, but
the
there's no way to hold
mind-body
on to it,
dichotomy
though.
is far more complicated than just two separate things. I think they interact far more than we think.
They have these here, so that way there's no way that you can compromise it in any way. And
I agree,
yeah.
Nancy. I agree with you. If you don't hold on to it when you hang a pendulum somewhere and ask it, and it starts moving, then unless you've got some psychokinetic power, then that's another question. But it's something more mysterious. Then that's for sure.
I was thinking about doing that, like showing you my pendulum and seeing if it would do the yes or no, but I don't know where it went. Darn it! I was going to show it, but unless your hand twitches, yeah.
Yeah. And then Nancy has some great points.
Your arms can get tired. So, and I always wondered, maybe you could hook it up into something, but at the same time, it doesn't serve the same purpose. Even if you do have it on something that's level, it literally needs your energy. That's the reason why it needs your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can hold it. So you have to keep it completely still. So right now it's not doing what I want it to do. So that means there's like nothing going on at all. Oops, that's in the way. So if I decided that, hang on, move back. Let me get my hands level here. You just give it a second.
Mm-hmm. Take your time.
Okay, now it's going to go straight. Okay, so straight. Wash it. So if there's anyone here, can you cross the rods for me? I'm not moving my hands, so there's nobody here.
Oh, well, there you go. Uh-oh.
There you go. Nobody's here. Hang on.
Almost crossed. But well, your spirit free tonight for the first time in the last 2 years. Being somewhat facetious. But.
I know. I'm like trying to keep it still. Here, Harold, let me keep it really, really still. And then stay. Okay. Try one more time. If someone is here and wants to communicate, can you cross the rods? Yep. Good.
I need to go.
Okay, bye-bye.
They're not going to cross your rods. They're out the door.
Okay, bye-bye. See you later. Yeah, we're good.
Huh.
Yay.
Mothman 46 had a good point. He said, I've seen people manipulate the crystals. I have too. And I've seen the rods find water lines in almost impossible situations. I do think there is something to the art of dowsing. I really do, finding water in wells and things, because I haven't seen it in person. I've done it in person, but again, was I influencing them? But I've certainly seen documentaries, and I've read things which seem to indicate dowsing for water is a genuine old folk, almost tradition with some genuine power to it. Before we move on, David asked before, do you think there are any patterns of specific manifestations? I can't see what does it say? My eyesight's so bad.
I like the toys.
Ah, there you go. That's a little spooky. and some adult situations, it might be even spookier. Do you think
Yeah, I
that
guess so.
David said anyway, do you think there are any patterns or specific manifestations that can help us sort out what is actually haunted and what is something just passing through or brought in? So yeah, is there something, Jen, that when you're investigating, you think, okay, I can tell that lives here or resides here, but this seems like something that's just come in or passing through?
I don't think so. Not unless you probably are more sensitive and ask your spirit guides. Otherwise, I don't think there's like an indication whether or not it belongs there or not. Would literally have to have an open communication.
Ed said vaudeville mind readers often use a technique called muscle reading to find hidden objects. We'll have to talk about that next time we have Ed on. That sounds fascinating. Ed's one of our favorite guests for, I'm sure, any regular viewers or listeners to the show have seen Ed on a number of times. So I'm always glad when he's listening as well. Now, since we're talking about, your toys and what you're getting ready to use in the investigation, can you go a little bit more into that, where you're investigating, all the things you're taking along? What's your kind of methodology? What's your approach going to be? So let's start with where you're going.
Yeah, that it'll be like a mess when I get there, because I'm like, I'll be like a little kid and where am I gonna start with this time? Oh my god, which room? Where do I go first? I'm going to the Mcintyre Villa again. I went there in May for the first time, but it was an event, and so the first thing I noticed driving there, I love the drive because it goes through the north part of Kansas City into Weston, and Weston's a beautiful area. It's north of Casey, north of the airport. And so you ended up going through that, and it's just beautiful countryside. And then you're heading towards Atchison, so you get through Kansas. And as soon as you get over this bridge, I forget exactly what river it is, but Atchison's a very, very old town. So, back in the Old West, this was one of your old towns, Wild West, kind of in the way back then, early 1800s. And it was a railroad town, and so of course it had a river right there, so it was quite popular. So when I went over the river, you felt this hover, like a cloud just kind of sits over this town. I don't really know that much about it, but it's got a lot of energy there, and a lot of it has to do with the river, I'm sure. But there's a lot of it's tainted in a way. So there's two big haunted locations that are well known, and one is the Mcintyre Villa, and the other one is the Sally House. And Sally House is the one that's got the really, really bad trickster energy inside of it. So that one, I don't know if I'd ever go to it. If I went with it, I would make sure I had some good friends that I trusted and somebody that knew how to deal with little evil things like that. From other investigators that I know, that always ends up following you, just depending on what type of person you are or personality. I think that they could, have fun with you. It'll just kind of hitch a ride. Really, I don't think they even have to hitch a ride. I think that location, a lot of other people are able to talk to that entity in real time. And then that entity, like if you're at another location, tell that entity that's over in that house to do something in another house, and it will go and do it. So it can I don't know. That's another freaking story. I'm going off subject.
No, do you think that's demonic? That sounds demonic.
Yeah, could be. I don't know. But that's what that supposedly is there. It's something that I don't think it originally began there, because of all the stories that I've heard. That it's just, I think somebody brought it there, and it's just stayed there and just kind of grew throughout all the years. And now it's there, and it's joining. It gets people there all the time because it's so popular. So I don't know if I ever do that one, but the villa is quite interesting because I was talking to the owner, kind of asking about documentation, because I didn't know much about it. I just knew it was really beautiful, and I had been friends with the owner on Facebook, and I've seen her posts and stuff. So I was always kind of fascinated with the house. So when I first went in there, it was just a little gloomy in the house, but it was just darker. It's a Victorian style home. but it does have some interesting areas. One of the ladies, old owners, passed away in one of the rocking chairs, I believe, or it's a story. I think even the owner said that she had heard that as well. So a lot of the stuff she's going by is stuff she's heard too. I don't know if she's personally had an experience with a rocking chair or not, but other people have. But I like to kind of go by the documentation. So I think there's the original owner of the home passed away there. And I think his first wife, a lot of people have passed away there. And then I guess the second wife as well, and her brother, I think there's one that committed suicide. So I didn't know all this when I first went in. I didn't know all of it. So when you go up to upstairs, something's in the upstairs hallway. It's like automatic. You're not alone in that freaking hallway. I don't know what's up with it. So a lot of us were in the hallway just hanging out. So obviously everybody already knew about the hallway, but I could tell something was weird with it. So as we were walking back, there is a bathroom, and you could just feel something weird before you get to the other back staircase that's on the other side. And there was some activity in the bathroom, which I thought was kind of weird. And I went into the room that was next to it. And as I went into it, I think they call that the library, but it used to be like a bedroom. And when I was in there, I was looking and I'm like, why is the room separated? And I had asked somebody about that. And I said, was it originally like that? And a lot of people weren't sure. But I think that is the room where the guy ended up ending his life. He was a war veteran and came back from the Civil War, I think, something like that. And just ended his life because he just, couldn't get over all of the trauma that he dealt with. And he's very, very active in that area.
Gosh.
But
does he manifest physically? Have people seen him ever, or just
he likes to move things? Things were moving in the bathroom. But I think through some interviews they did with the owner, she has one of those really cool old Panasonic voice recorders that seem to be quite sensitive, that pick up things a little easier. Dude's always cussing her out. I don't know why, but she gets a lot of cuss words.
Does he cuss out in Civil War vernacular, or is it
not really? He's just like, get the F out of my room. Like, what are you, she'll be cleaning. And so I think she's, what was it? She will leave it in there or something like that, and then come back to see if she gets anything. And, they know her by name now, but I think at first she, was really unnerved that he was always cussing her out.
That's a question. Do ghosts from a previous time period continue to speak in the vernacular of their period in most EVPs or those kind of things, or do they adopt a modern vernacular?
I think a lot of them still do, but I guess it depends. Do you evolve once you're on the other side? Think you evolve on the other side, think you'd be able to leave a location if you wanted to. So why can't he leave the location? So I don't know. There's just tons of questions when it comes to stuff like that. Like even there was a room back behind there that was just full of dolls, and I was obsessed with that one. And I ended up catching, and that was a room I was literally obsessed with. I stayed in there for the longest time because we got to go investigate by ourselves. And I remember I was panning the room, and all of a sudden I heard click, click. So I turned back around to see what just clicked and opened, and the curio cabinet's opening. And there is one of those old looking puppet dolls. It looks kind of Asian-ish.
Good grief.
It's haunted. I didn't know the doll was haunted. So it literally opened up the curio cabinet while I was standing there. Wandering. Okay. While I was standing there. So I was just like, oh, well, that's weird.
That puppet marionette ghost wandered home with you. That's what the ghost box is telling you, or the ghost tube, or
wandering. No, it just means they're wandering. Remember I told you to get hitchhikers. The hospital's over there.
Gosh.
No, I have no idea. It's just the app.
So what do you do when you go there? What's your plan of attack? Like, I know you say these different areas, but do you have what's your methodology you're going to use when you go into these rooms, these different parts of the location?
Well,
Or do you
I
just use
think
your gut
first
instinct when
you
you're dead?
just kind of get you kind of got to get your bearings first. Let the house know who you are. I like to go to each room and introduce myself. I like to let them know who I am, why I'm there. And I'll go throughout the whole house, even that darn basement. I don't like that basement. It's really dark and just cold and stinks, and I just don't like it down there. It's got something weird down there. I don't know. She told me a bunch of different stories when I was there for that location. The investigation they were talking about a bunch of weird stuff, but nothing's really documented, so I don't know what the truth is. I do know she said she was going to go to the State Historical Society, see if she can find out some more information. It's always nice when you got some good documentation.
Why do you think it's basement? I'm just out of curiosity. Why do you think it's often basements that have the heavy stuff? Like, I know it doesn't. The Conjuring house, the basement's creepier than others, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why you always have the attics or the basements are always the ones where they like to hide. They want to be left alone, so they'll hide down there. But I think they used what I had heard that the basement at one time people rented out or lived down there. I don't know. I got to learn more about it. But there is a guy that's down in one of the rooms that just hovers in one area where they got curtains down there. I remember being down there and all my hair was standing up, and I hadn't really. I mean, I felt it before, but it wouldn't stop. I was charged. It was completely charged, and it was weird. It was just like, what are you doing? Just kind of checking me out. Like, get away from me.
And that was the guy. That was the guy you think who hovers down there. That leads to another question. As a female investigator, or I guess as anybody who is a sensitive, female sensitive, can you tell the difference in energy between a male and a female spirit? Is there a difference, or does it take a while to ascertain?
Well, for me, because I try not to believe. It's the second time it said that. We said it before we came on here. I try before I would try not to entertain it whatsoever, even though I know I would get these visions and see things and just kind of know things. And I would just like, okay, maybe it's that. And I just wouldn't talk about it. So it's not until just recently, the last couple of years or so, where I'm just like, I'm just going to let myself let go and just see what happens. So it's still fairly new to me to actually accept it and try to learn more about it. So that's another reason why I do the investigations, to kind of hone in on it and learn more about my own ability. But I literally will get a picture in my head and I'll know that if it's male or female. And it's possible that you can feel the difference, because that's what said David that said that. So, and everybody has their own sensitivity as well. So they'll definitely be able to hone in on those too, if he can tell the difference. So everybody will be able to somehow eventually figure it out. The more they're in locations like that, the more sensitive they become.
David also asked, do you use EMF detectors or digital thermometers?
Yeah, I mean, I've got this one here that's got the thermometer in it too. And then I've got, your regular one with the lights. This one never, ever works as far as I'm concerned. And when I brought it to the villa, I put it in the doll room and laid it on one of the beds, and this thing went off like crazy. And it's never gone off, and hasn't gone off since. The only room that this ever went off was in the doll room. So, we get to stay the night. So I was so excited. I get to stay the night. I turns out, what bed am I going to sleep in? Probably the doll room, just because this thing went off in there. And that little nice. That little doll is still in the back of my head that wants me to come back. So that's why I got to go back there and talk to that little doll.
It's going to snuggle with you.
Don't snuggle.
Come over. You'll be sleeping. You hear click, 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 and the little marionette will be, snuggle time.
I'll be like, okay, camera, where's the camera? That's all I got to do. Camera. So I got prove it. See.
So this investigation you're doing, Is it just going to be you and David, or are there going to be other people?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just me and David. That's the plan. Now, I don't know if the owner is going to or not. She mentioned that she's done it before with other people, but I haven't double checked to see if she was going to stay for a little while and investigate. But it's just basically us. And so there's different things that I was wanting to use. So I do know music is a good way to I kind of want to calm the house. I don't want the house to automatically think I'm going to jump them. So I'll probably go through and try it, just a couple of little things, just talking here and there, try some instruments, things like that. But then after a while, I do plan to where my cousin, he's not my cousin, my nephew and I are going to chill, and we're going to do some karaoke. And we're going to sing, and we're going to have fun. And I'm going to have all my stuff up to see if anything starts going off, if it gets their attention, because it's not, a lot of people like to use the word abandonment. Well, to me, it's abandonment because I'm not going to ask them any questions. I'm just going to entertain myself and see if anything happens. Sometimes if you're not engaging them at all, then that's when you get more activity, especially when you're doing stuff like that. So I thought about doing that as well. And then I bought these little yes or no buttons. But I'm wanting to work with them, though, because, I have the flashlights. Flashlights, these little suckers work very well. They've always worked good for me.
Well, explain how that works as well for people who don't know.
Well, it's just, your magnet lights, you turn them. The thing is that you keep them to where they're where it's not too hard to turn them. But you do have to be careful. You don't want it to where you're going to get like a false positive of it turning on just because you kept it really way too loose, which can happen. So, these work very well for yes or no. So I've got my red one and my silver one. And so one will be yes and one will be no. But I wanted something that actually said yes or no, because I was going to buy those little pet buttons. Pets will communicate with you. And so I decided, no, I'll get something that's really fun. I use it for games. I'm trying to get it out of the box. But they look like, there's cameras. So there's the yes one. Of course, it's green. So it's going to look like the background. And then the no is red. So if I place them down here, they're this little game ones. So they have all different kinds of yeses. So they're fun. They're light. They're lighthearted. That's what I want. I want the whole thing to be fun and lighthearted. And I want to have good communication. I don't want the evil shit. I don't want to antagonize or provoke. That is just so stupid. So I'm not doing that. So if I ask a question, they can. Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's the marionettes.
Yes, baby.
No.
Anyways,
That creepy one.
To make them.
What? Creepy one. Yes, was the marionette. That's how he's going to talk to you. But keep telling us what you're going to make. How are you going to make them into this? You said you want to make them into something.
Well, I took them to work. And so my boss is really smart with this kind of stuff. I just don't know how to, still learning. I'm wanting to take the stop off, and I want to have it. Well, it's easier to manipulate. Like how I'm moving this right now. That's how easy I want it to be able to move. So it'll go off. Of course, right now you literally got to press it. So instead of us taking it apart, because he was afraid to break it, he literally puts some weight on it. And he gets it enough. And so all we had to do was just barely tap it and this thing would go off. So he told me that's what I should do for at least now until I decide I want to literally break it open and see if I can get the springs. But that's something that I got for yes or no. It's just to try it. Probably won't even work, but it doesn't hurt. And then I got this little thing. Oops. So I'm not using an Ouija, but it's kind of like an Ouija, but for kiddos. So they're supposed to be a little child, right? So if they can figure it out, they won't tell me their name. Okay, hang on. Darn it. Are you not on? Here. It's very light.
Let's learn the alphabet.
Okay.
Press the button to hear the letter sound.
Let's do A.
C.
And then of course,
Lion.
if they want to be goofy, You got your, and then we got numbers down here. It's just really silly. I don't even know if it's gonna work. I don't even know if it's gonna work.
And you're going to make
I'll
a
have it
video.
there.
And you're going to make a video of this investigation. A new episode of Haunted Jen. Is that correct?
That's the goal. Yeah. Yep. That's what I plan on doing.
I think the whole karaoke thing's interesting. I think I saw like Bobo and Cliff Barrickman do that for Bigfoot once on Finding Bigfoot. Or maybe
really?
it was maybe a rock concert or something. You know, they were playing guitars and things to draw the Bigfoot in.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it interesting that sometimes these approaches can work.
No, I'm not.
These approaches can work perhaps across various phenomena.
Huh? Did it work though?
Well, you know how that show ended. They found Bigfoot, right? No, they never found Bigfoot.
Well, I mean, but,
None of
that's
this stuff
the
ever
point
works.
of it. You got to have a cliffhanger. You got to keep coming back and watching.
Yeah, I'm just being facetious. I like Finding Bigfoot. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They
got a lot of good Bigfoot shows out there. And but my favorite one right now, I love Jack Osborne. So I told you, didn't I tell you about that one with the guy from Silent Bob, Jay and Silent Bob?
You did tell me about. I've only ever seen Jack Osborne showing Ozzy, and what's his mother's name? Is it what's Mrs. Osborne's name?
It's Sharon. But I mean,
Sharon.
they do have
Tunnel.
And he shows them stuff, and he'll be like, "That's a man in a bloody suit. That is."
He's hilarious. I love Ozzy.
That's just a bush. You're talking. That's a bush over there. That's when he's showing him the Bigfoot videos.
Yeah.
That's all I've ever seen, and only probably 10 minutes the entire run of that show. That's all I know of it. So.
Yeah. No, he's got those with his parents, and then he did one with his sister, but there's only one episode, which I thought was odd because I know she's now tapping into her abilities. So maybe I don't know why they only did one episode, but he's got a lot of stuff on Discovery Plus. So he has this one with Katrina. Oh gosh, can't say her last name again. But anyway, she's originally from Paranormal State, and she also did Paranormal Lockdown as well. But now she's Portals to Hell with Jack Osborne. So they've got, I think it's 3 seasons.
Gosh.
And then now he's got this new one with, I think it's Jay, right? From Jay and Silent Bob.
You were saying that. I'm curious to see.
Bigfoot. It's good. Yeah.
I don't understand why Rob Lowe can't get a second season for the Lowe Files, though. If Jack Osborne can have 3 seasons of a new show, where's my season 2 of the Lowe Files? That's what I want to know. Greatest paranormal show ever.
Yeah, the thing with the Lowe Files, I liked it. To me, it was a wholesome kind of fun father and son adventure to go, find answers from the other side. And that just doesn't sell for some reason. Now, if they had a lot of evil and demonic and poltergeist type activity, that probably would have sold it more. I think that's what happened with that one.
Well, I think Rob says they put them in the wrong time zone. Like they put them on once before one of their other. They put them on once, I think, before or after I don't know, Ancient Aliens or some big show, and it rated really well. And then they moved it to this other slot. So, and that's possible.
Yeah.
I know sometimes the placement of a show can really affect its ratings in a positive or negative way. So. It's just a fun show. Listen, I mean, there's shows obviously I love more, like In Search Of I love, Monster Quest I love. But just the show which is just fun and wholesome is, the Lowe Files. Can't get enough of that show. And I only got 1 season of it, so go figure.
Yeah,
I think Nancy just said, I love the Lowe Files. The interaction with his sons was awesome. It was awesome. It was amazing. As a father, it's something like I'd love to do with my daughter one day. Something like that. How cool.
You never know. Yeah, you just get out and investigate. Maybe when she gets older, you'll start doing it.
Maybe road tripping to go and see weird, stuff is kind of fun. So, anything else to tell us about the investigation? Any other? I mean, all of that stuff's just fantastic. But is there anything else you have planned? You haven't let us know about yet?
Not that I can really think of.
Well,
did I tell you something that I forgot?
No, I just wanted to make sure because I started to talk about the Lowe Files or something, and I was like, did I stop you from telling the rest of the story?
Excited about it and the fact that we get to stay the night. And this place is active. I mean, it's each floor. So,
Will you set up speaking of shows, will you set up the night vision camera on you like in Destination Fear when like Dakota or one of his other cast members jump up, and they're terrified. They hear a sound. What's that? Is that you, Dakota? Who's that? You're going to have that kind of.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought about it.
David, is that you?
Yeah. The thing is that I'm limited. I don't have a lot of stuff. I wish I did. I wish I had all the cool stuff that, that those guys have, but I've only got 2 cameras. And so I do have one. I do plan to just going to stay in certain spots, and one we'll always have with us. So, and I did get a charger for it, so that one will stay plugged in, so I don't have to deal with batteries on that one. That's my old one too. So it's got night vision on it, so I'll just keep that one going. And then I guess I couldn't decide if I wanted to like record us when we're sleeping, at least in the room, or if I just want to record that hallway, because the attic in the same area where the doll room is, that area is quite active too, because the attic has a lot of more poltergeist activity. The attic door likes to open up on its own. Chairs move on its own. I think she even has a video of the skeleton, because she likes skeletons. They're all over the house just for some fun Halloween decor. It's there all the time. So she's got a skeleton up there, and she had the camera on it, and she put eyeballs in it, dressed it up and everything. And you can find this on her website. She puts a lot of stuff up that she catches, and she makes sure that she puts stuff up that somebody can't try and debunk, because she's tired of the shit, so she makes sure it's something somebody's not going to say something stupid about. So I don't know what the time lapse was with the skeleton, but imagine you're like facing this way. The skeleton just literally slowly like moves its head. I don't know the time lapse on it, but eventually it just stops and it stares at the camera. And it just sits there like that, right? And then all of a sudden, pop, the eyeballs pop out. What? Jacket. And she literally makes a joke. She goes, I swear I'm never ever buying eyeballs again and sticking them in that freaking skeleton. It scared the shit out of her, because not only did it slowly move its head, it just went pop. There went an eyeball. There went an eyeball. And that was the video. Yeah.
Gosh. Well,
Mcintyre Villa page.
If you want the opinion of a non-paranormal investigator, but of somebody with some producerial experience, only a small amount in the entertainment industry.
Well, I'm sure they can do that, right?
Keep the video on you while you're sleeping, because everyone wants to see that marionette puppet come over and jump into bed for the snuggle. That's the money shot right there. That creepy. In all seriousness, though, in Destination Fear, they always have the cameras on each other, because that's the interesting stuff when they sit up with a flashlight. Who's there? Who's there? That's the interesting stuff.
That's what I got to get used to. That's my problem. I don't like seeing myself on camera, and they always do these selfies. Well, I don't like seeing myself talking. I don't know. I still get used to it. Like even doing that video I did the other day.
Got to get used to it.
I had to talk to myself. So.
Well, not everybody can be as handsome as me, who's in love with looking at themselves on a camera. I'm joking, baby. You're so gorgeous. You should have no hesitation filming yourself in a selfie mode. And besides, I think that's what people are going to want to see, the investigation. But what interests people is the human dynamic, all like compliments and jests aside. As gorgeous you are, and I think you film very well, the reality is most people are more interested in seeing somebody react to something happening than a shot of a wall. If that was the case, all these paranormal shows would just have the camera focused on the wall. What they want to see is now you can have both, of course, but what you primarily want to see is people reacting to what's going on. I think that, to me at least, the human element is more interesting than a can falling off a shelf or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I will have to agree to that. I've watched a lot of paranormal shows. Yeah. And even if the show sucks and they have really bad evidence, you still if somebody's got a very expressive face, you'll still watch it.
Jeez, Zach Baggins made millions off that, right? Like just getting all worked up.
Dude, no, Aaron. Oh my God.
Okay, I don't even know these guys really. You know that stuff.
Show. I love Aaron. He is hilarious. Oh my God, he makes the show.
David said, be sure and rehearse. What is that? In a loud, terrified voice. Absolutely. That's the producerial advice I'd be given to.
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody's probably going to be super excited to see another haunted Jenn. It's been way too long. I really want to see one. I know that.
Yeah. The crazy thing is that I've done other ones. I was flipping through some of my stuff. I was going through my SD cards trying to get everything ready. And I'm like, I've got stuff from the Miller Mausoleum Holden. I've got stuff from the Where the Pigs Could Fly farm, which I need to go back to that one because the stuff that it's not a very good investigation. So I need to go back and do that one. And then, gosh, I have another one too. But yeah, it's the same.
Nancy's saying she'd like to see you filming the ABC Kids pad while you sleep or in a room by itself.
I wish I had more cameras. Like these people that, do this stuff a lot, they seem to have tons of equipment.
David wants another haunted Jenn. Everybody wants another haunted Jenn. It's true. So yeah, and all I can say is I'm serious. The more camera on you, the better. It's just more interesting. People are more interested to see that. I'm serious.
My nephew is hilarious, so he'll make it funny too.
Yeah, but make sure that it isn't just the wall and David. Make sure there's camera on you because
okay.
Yeah, that's what people who are interested in your investigations are going to want to see. That's my producerial advice. I haven't given it to you off screen. I'm giving it to you on screen, so the whole world can hear. And then if Haunted Jenn comes out, it's just I don't know. Jen's not there. They can say Dean told you.
Dean told you.
Dean knows best. I used to have friends in Australia, and because I'm always so advice given, it was kind of like, I don't know, a father knows best parody. They'd always say Dean knows best. I'd be like, damn straight, Dean knows best.
Damn straight.
Anyway, what else we should mention quickly, because we can mention it. We have a date now. I believe Talking Weird is moving to the Untold radio network, which we're super excited about. The actual move date now, I believe, is August 27. So we'll still be on the current channels you're watching now, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, throughout most of August. But by that last weekend in August, you'll still be able to go to we'll link and point to it, but it won't be on those channels anymore. It'll be on the Untold Radio Network. It'll be on their actual audio podcast channels after it drops, and it will also be on their YouTube channel. Untold Radio Network is the brainchild of Doug Hychek, who is the creator of Monster Quest, and is literally a household name, at least in this house. My daughter loves Monster Quest. She's obsessed. Whenever she knows I'm talking to Doug, she runs over all excited because she's such a little fan of the show. Also, my Weird Library is going to be moving to Untold Radio Network as well and transforming. I can actually say I checked with Doug yesterday. I've been keeping it a little under wraps. It's transforming into another show called Mysterious Library, where my co-host will be Jason McLean on that show, who we've had on Talking Weird before, and he's written a number of books on the UFO phenomenon and on cryptids and on even biblical prophecy. A fascinating human being. I'm delighted to have him as my host, and as always, I'm particularly delighted to have the woman I love as my host on Talking Weird as we move forward. So it's exciting times. What did the machine say?
What do I do? It keeps trying to say stuff to me and I'm ignoring it. So
yes, David, we will still be on YouTube. It'll just be a different channel. That is all. So that will be good.
Yeah, he's making one big channel, right? So
yeah, I think Talking Weird is one of, initially I think there's going to be about 7 shows. I think there's one every day. At least I expect the network to grow a little bit as well, but I'm super happy that we're one of the flagship shows on that, and to work with Doug, myself being such a fan of Monster Quest, it's a bit of a fanboy moment. You're smiling because it's it's true. It's true. So yeah, I guess that's about it for tonight. We had a lovely chat talking to you. I love engaging everybody on these shows that we just do when it's you and I. It's harder to talk to everybody when we have a guest. But yeah, thank you for listening, everybody, from Nancy to David to Joe to Ed Schultz to Mothman 46 to anybody else I've missed. I know there are a few other people on there commenting earlier. I believe it was a lot of fun. Fun to have you. You have any parting words before we sign off, Jenn?
How about just keep it weird or weirder, weirdest?
I think that's a pretty
That's our normal.
Sorry, what did you say? What was the last one?
That's our normal.
That's true.
Our normal that we do. So.
Keep it weird.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If you're interested in checking out more episodes, you can find us at talkingweird.com. If you haven't already, please like the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talking Weird Podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to Talking Weird. We're available on most podcast platforms and YouTube. And if you do enjoy the show, please leave us a review. Dean and I would really appreciate it. Until then, stay safe and keep it weird.